Hello, it's Taylor Ray of the 1P versus 2P podcast. With me is my brother and co-host, Ryan Ray. Hey, so we're here to talk about E3 2017. We're not going to cover everything that was announced there. We'll have all those links posted in our show notes. But we're here to talk about our wish list items.
Right, and this is an editor's choice wish list because we didn't actually physically go to E3. We haven't played these games. Like a lot of people on the internet, we watched the streams, we viewed some of the game trailers, we read some of the interviews, basically follow along with the news as it was happening last week. And there are some games on this list that I'm very, very excited to play, and some of them are coming out this year, such as the surprise hit of E3 for me, Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle. This game is coming out on the Switch August 29th, 2017, debuted on Ubisoft's E3 stage. Super impressive. I did not know what to expect at all. I guess I was expecting from a Rabbids game, and typically Ubisoft near the launch window, maybe like a Just Dance thing or a minigame collection. And instead what we're getting is XCOM with Mario characters.
Yeah, very fascinating concept. I mean, it does look like XCOM. We have to admit, they showed a lot of gameplay trailers. It looks very cute and quirky. The Rabbids look like Mario characters just dressed up. So Mario with the Mario hat and overalls, Peach, same concept. It seems very fun and quirky, very lighthearted. But yeah, what a surprise. Despite the leak that we saw, that sort of promo art a couple weeks ago, I'm very excited about this. I'm not a Switch owner myself, but I want to segue into what I think is going to be a console seller, certainly very much hyped at E3, which was also Super Mario Odyssey. So both of us, Ryan and I, both agree for our Editor's Choice wish lists. Both of these Mario games are very, very exciting.
Yeah, Mario Odyssey seems to be somewhat of a new direction for the Mario team, styling it more like Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine, these open hub worlds that you get to kind of explore. You're not collecting stars or shines this time, you're collecting power moons. And they showed off a little bit of Mario exploring New Donk City, this big city skyscraper cityscape that seems to be floating. I'm not sure exactly where New Donk City takes place. The theme song for that game, so Pauline from the original Donkey Kong is apparently the mayor of New Donk City, and she's singing this like very jazzy theme that I can't stop listening to. Kotaku had a really great post about that. But yeah, the gameplay looks awesome. They showed off a desert world and suit changing station where Mario can change into some of the more obscure Mario lore characters. There was like Mario with a sombrero and a poncho, Mario in a football costume, Mario in a golf costume. Mario has had a lot of roles and jobs besides plumber over the years. And yeah, it was really cool that Nintendo is kind of giving new life to Mario. The gameplay looks a lot of fun. And you're throwing the hat to capture enemies and become them. Kind of almost Kirby-esque.
Yeah, it's almost like you're possessing them. You're throwing the character's called Cappy. It's Mario's cap that has eyes on it. And when you throw it at, let's say, like a Goomba or a Koopa, it starts to look like Mario. It's got the trademark mustache and everything. It's very fun and lighthearted. You can even, I guess, possess the human characters that are walking around New Donk City. Just really, really cool. So, and speaking to some of the other costumes that you mentioned, there's some deep cuts in there. I think there was like sort of like a pith helmet Mario, which was, I believe, from Mario Picross, I want to say. And there's one where he's sort of in a chef's outfit, which was, I guess, from Yoshi's Cookie, I want to say. I'm really having to rack my brain on those. But yeah, they also showed a really unique mechanic as well, where you're actually playing a 2D Mario. So it's almost like it's almost like a Paper Mario element, not the RPGs, but like Super Paper Mario, where you're entering 2D spaces, and then all of a sudden you move from one area of this world to the next, and you're back into a 3D space. I think it looks really innovative. Just Mario just keeps on shining through. And for me, this is definitely a game that's a system seller. Mario traditionally has been a system seller for me. Super Mario Odyssey is coming out October 27th, 2017. If I can find the Switch on shelves, I'm definitely going to buy it in anticipation of this game.
Yeah, that's really soon, and I think it's going to be a big hit for Nintendo. I will say I do have a little bit of one concern. Typically, Mario worlds are very imaginative places. Think about the worlds in Mario Galaxy centered around one power-up or themed like a lava level or a water level. And Mario Odyssey seems to be going after more like real-world environments. You might actually encounter, New York or a desert. And I'm a little concerned that there might be a little less playful of a tone. I mean, the game seems very playful, has very like fun spirit, but Mario is kind of like the Sesame Street of video games, right? It's basically every gamer's first video game, or at least like a common language that we all speak. That's why Super Mario Maker came out a few years ago. And I'm a little worried that the worlds are going to be less imaginative, but I hope that aspect of the game, the levels are really fun. I hope the challenges are really fun. I look forward to collecting a lot of those Power Moons come this October. Speaking of October 27th, that's going to be a big day for video games. Another game that we really liked from what was shown at E3, Wolfenstein II, the new Colossus, coming out the same day as Mario Odyssey for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Taylor, what did you think of the new look of BJ Blazkowicz?
Yeah, it starts off really strong. They showed like a lot of the game, the first several minutes of the game. What a reveal from Bethesda's press conference. BJ Blazkowicz, if you played Wolfenstein: The New Order, very much a story-driven campaign shooter. What a spectacular game. So you're seeing a lot of a surprising number, I should say, of the main characters from the first one. Yeah, I do want to play this game a whole lot. I think the meme that came out from this one was that there's a milkshake Nazi who's appearing in this American cafe, and it's set in the storyline, this timeline of the Nazis who won World War II and have conquered sort of America, and it's showing BJ Blazkowicz sort of encountering the Nazis in like 1950s eras cafes, settings, movies, Main Street USA. Really, really interesting.
And it also, importantly, it's continuing the continuity from the New Order. In that game, Blazkowicz kind of had, there was a like sex scene, a really actually pretty good video game sex scene. And, his partner is now pregnant with twins. And so BJ Blazkowicz in this game now has kind of more of an impetus to defeat the Nazis, more than he had so before, because he wants to protect his unborn children. And, there was a cutscene where they showed him like basically wearing like an Iron Maiden type helmet protecting him from a grenade. A lot of really cool characters in that first game. The story was very impressive for a game that was basically a like Duke Nukem era Doom Quake clone, and they've totally made BJ Blazkowicz into a very serious character. The last game was fantastic. I didn't play the DLC expansions, but I feel like the announcement of the new Colossus is getting a lot of people to check out the New Order, which I think is a plus. And also they showed off a segment where you're in a wheelchair and you're doing first person shooter stuff in a wheelchair. The New Order also had a section like that, but man, I hope this game goes off the rails with that kind of gunplay stuff. In 2017, we might want a game where everybody just needs to blow off some steam and kill some Nazis, right?
Yeah.
So, very excited about doing that in October.
Yeah, well said. Moving on, this is where we sort of differ. Those three were sort of our consensus wishlist picks, but I would have to say a game that really got me excited was revealed during the EA press conference, but was later shown off a lot more during Microsoft's Xbox One, and it's called Anthem. This is EA published, but BioWare developed. It's coming out fall of next year, 2018, out on PS4, Xbox One, and PC. How can I describe this game? It felt like Titanfall meets Destiny. So you're humans going into these exosuits. You can maneuver around a lot like tribes, flying around, jetpacking around. And it seems to have a lot of the shooter RPG elements that you see and loot drops based on Borderlands and Destiny. But it was fascinating. The gameplay that they showed really showed how kind of story-driven it was. The dialogue between the characters and the voice actors just felt very, very natural, very, very cool. Definitely a blockbuster title that I'm very excited to check out.
So I have a question for you because you did play Titanfall, but you didn't get that deep into Destiny. What about this game really speaks to you? Because Destiny 2 is coming out this year, and Anthem will be coming out if it's not delayed, next year. And a lot of people will be deep into Destiny 2 at that point. And like, what about this game really speaks to you? BioWare, like, not doing so hot right now after Mass Effect Andromeda. What is it about this combination of things that really is getting you excited for Anthem?
Well, despite the, I would say, struggles of Mass Effect Andromeda's development, there's a great piece that Jason Schreier wrote up on Kotaku about that. But that's beside the point. I think Anthem, they've been working on this game, you can already tell, for a couple of years, and I want to say this is a different studio working on it entirely. Taking a new IP with BioWare, I think is very, very exciting. They've done some awesome things with other existing licenses, like Star Wars, for example, and the Knights of the Old Republic, and the way they integrated and wrote the stories behind these games fascinated me. I think Destiny was a big misstep because the story was buried. I understand that this game had like a lot of improvements through updates over the past few years, but for me, Destiny it felt like a grind. It felt like you were repeating the same areas over and over again. So in addition to the story being kind of dull, I just felt like playing through the same story beats was just really, really repetitive and unfun. And so as much as I was disappointed with Destiny 1, I'm just very much looking forward to something fresh, something new, third-person shooter, a new IP out of BioWare seems very, very, very exciting. I don't know. I have a great feeling about this one.
Yeah, you mentioned Knights of the Old Republic, which is actually interesting because EA developed Star Wars The Old Republic not too long ago, and the launch of that game was not very successful, let's say, even though it did have kind of a more story-based element to it. And there seems to be this year this push towards games as a service, and I think that EA being EA is going to try to go after that kind of model where, Anthem is a living game. Of course, we don't know any of the details. They just showed a gameplay footage and they talked about it. But they talked about this idea of loot and you would be able to customize your classes and, you have the abilities, and they even showed off a little bit of that. Can EA deliver this? I'm very curious to see if they can deliver the games as a service thing. It's kind of an open question for me, I think. One of the games that I was super excited for, shown at the end of the Sony press conference, SpiderMan. This is not at all related to the new Spider-Man movie, coming out in 2018, kind of an undefined date, of course for PS4, made by Insomniac, the makers of Ratchet and Clank. They showed off a little bit of gameplay footage. Seems to be like a Batman Arkham Asylum style Spider-Man game in an open world, which I wasn't expecting the Batman direction. I was expecting, they've said in interviews after they showed the gameplay trailer that they're going after Spider-Man 2, which was like the game based on the movie. It's kind of the best Spider-Man games I've ever felt. The open world, swinging around New York, the traversal, the momentum that you really have with web slinging, and the combat aspect of making it like Batman could be like counter-based. Spider-Man doesn't really have gadgets like Batman does, but the way that they're going to do the abilities seems really, really interesting. And I believe in Insomniac. They also did Sunset Overdrive. They know how to do momentum-based games, and Spider-Man is a superhero quite like that.
The only thing that I'm kind of nervous about is that trailer that they showed off of the gameplay. I mean, there were a lot of QuickTime events in there, and that was a big thing that was mocked in other Spider-Man games. And that, to me, you had these big moments. They showed off the scene where he's trying to take down this helicopter where the villain is sort of getting away, and he's using his webs and kind of trapping it along skyscrapers and what have you, and there's a lot of time button presses. That, to me, looks not fun. But everything else, though, I mean, the stealth mechanics, the fighting, the web swinging, it seems like it's being written pretty well. The story seems kind of interesting. Those parts are really exciting. I'm just very nervous that there might be too many QuickTime events.
Yeah, I share your skepticism about those, and the developer has said that they are interested in kind of delving into the very deep rogues gallery that Spider-Man has. They're not going to go after like Doc Ock or some of the more typical Spider-Man villains. Even the trailer showed off this villain I've never heard of, Mr. Negative, who I did some reading up on. Apparently he has the power to like completely, utterly destroy the fabric of space-time for a person, or reversely, like heal them. So that's kind of an interesting bad guy to come up against with Spider-Man. And they even showed off a little teaser. You're playing Peter Parker in this game. They even showed off Miles Morales, who, and if you follow the comics books, is the new Spider-Man. So
Spoiler alert.
looking forward to checking out that game when it does eventually come out next year.
Yeah, the final one on my wish list was Star Wars Battlefront 2, which was shown off a lot at that EA press conference, one of the first ones. And this game just showed off a ton of multiplayer. Very excited about this one because Battlefront 2 covers like all of the eras of the Star Wars universe. It just a lot to dissect from what they showed off. There's a lot of post-release multiplayer add-ons that will be free this time around, so no more paid season passes, which is very exciting news. What else can I say about this? They showed off a lot of footage of like a battle on Naboo. They showed off new playable heroes from the Star Wars universe, some of the newer ones from like Force Awakens, Rogue One, like Rey, Finn, Kylo Ren, and even some other throwbacks like Darth Maul. So pretty exciting stuff. Yeah, and the other thing about this game that is really great is that they took a lot of the fan feedback from the first one. I should say first one. I mean the reboot, Star Wars Battlefront. There's now a single-player campaign that's going to cover a story of this Imperial squad. I'm always excited when you get to play as the bad guys, as the main protagonists. One of the highlights on stage had to have been the main actress. What was her name? Janina Gavankar. She was just a pure highlight, just unbridled optimism, enthusiasm about acting in this, and she is definitely motion capped and voice acted in this brand new story here. Very excited to check out this one.
Yeah, I hope that single-player campaign is as good as they're promising it to be. I think there have been a lot of cool single-player Star Wars games, particularly if it goes after the kind of like Republic Commando, which is like secretly a very great Star Wars game about controlling a squad of Imperial stormtroopers. That would be really cool. I'm a little curious to see if they're going to make the gameplay systems, the cards, the abilities, the unlocks a little bit more deep than they were in the last Battlefront game. And then my other reservation about this, they showed off you fighting in Naboo, and you said that this game is going to cover all of Star Wars eras. That also includes the bad Star Wars movies. So prepare to have Jar Jar Binks as season DLC.
I hope not.
The first, all kidding aside, I think the first Battlefront game was a promising start to that series, a reboot, if you will. And I think that if they just improved upon those systems just a little bit, they're going to have a pretty great game on their hands.
Yeah, there were a lot of vehicles that they showed off, a lot more customizations. There are some new classes in here. So you're playing as like heavies, you're playing as snipers, specialists, scouts. Very cool. More abilities, just more options in general, I would say. So definitely some improvements I would expect that over the first one, which is already a great start.
And I would say the last game on my wish list was Monster Hunter World. Kind of surprise announcement coming Q1 of 2018. That's coming for PS4, Xbox One, and they also said there's a PC version coming, but it's unclear if it's going to be the same day and date as the console versions. This looks like a realistic take on Monster Hunter. It seems to have a little bit of less of the whimsy that Monster Hunter traditionally has. Monster Hunter games typically have the song that plays when you spin the meat to cook the meat. They have the cat people that you can in the last game you could play as that kind of act as your little helpers.
You're selling this game off real well.
but I think the important thing is going to be a true console first Monster Hunter game, which I think the fans have really been wanting. The series has really flourished on portable systems, but people were kind of tired of those playing on really tiny screens. Some of the limitations with multiplayer lobbies. Some of the limitations based around loading on portable screens. They said with this version of the game that basically you're going to load into one world, one area, and it's not going to be these multiple loads. So hunts aren't going to feel like they drag on and on and on between loading screens. The monsters look really cool. They said they're going to be introducing some new monsters. The animations, I'm not sure if the animations are going to be a little bit more like Dark Souls, more like deliberate motions, or if they're going to go more after the like Devil May Cry, like third person action style, like Ninja Gaiden.
It's more fast paced.
More fast paced. They said they're going to try. This is the game, the Monster Hunter game that they're going to try to make popular with Western audiences. So I expect some of the more esoteric systems that have been in previous Monster Hunter games, they're going to try to strip out and make this more accessible, which I'm all for. I love Monster Hunter as a series, but if they really hit it out of the park with this game and make it popular, I could really see it taking off.
It's definitely a different direction. Like you said, it's less fantasy and more realistic, I would say. The very brief trailers that they showed off. It'll be interesting to see. I have not played any of the Monster Hunter games, but these aren't my kind of games. I don't know. They never quite grabbed my attention, but this one might be different. I don't know. It all depends. So yeah, coming out Q1 of 2018. Good to know. Let's cover this Microsoft news. We're done with our editor's choice wish list, but let's talk about the big console reveal, the big news, which we knew that Project Scorpio was going to be revealed, and it's now called the Xbox One X by Microsoft. It'll be out on November 7th of this year and will cost $499, call it $500, which is actually $100 more than the PS4 Pro MSRP. So let's give some context about that. The reason why we're mentioning the PS4 Pro price and the Xbox One X is to mention the fact that Microsoft is marketing this new console as the most powerful console ever created based on their hardware specs, okay? We're not going to get into the nitty-gritty, but that's what they're saying. The really key thing here is that they said a lot about 4K updates and how much better even existing Xbox One games will look on this machine compared to PS4 Pro, which it seems like the onus is on developers to go back in and make those graphical improvements, improve the performance, improve the frame rates. It seems like Microsoft is taking that step to improve the experience no matter what game you're running, even if they're not optimized from the ground up, being developed strictly, exclusively for the Xbox One X.
Yeah, Microsoft has gone ahead and said that all existing Xbox games, including Xbox One backward compatible titles, will run smoother, look better, and load faster without any additional update or work on the developer's behalf. They're looking to achieve more consistent frame rates, faster load times, better filtering, better peak resolution. They're trying to make this really like a big PC powerhouse type machine that, frankly, at $500, I don't think you can build like a 4K capable PC. That would be really, really difficult right now at this point in time. They have said that they're going to give some free updates for Gears of War 4, Forza Horizon 3, Killer Instinct, Halo Wars 2, and Minecraft for 4K updates, which I have to laugh at the Minecraft 4K update because Minecraft is even saying, Mojang said that this is going to be the like super deluxe graphics pack, which is basically about most gamers' understanding of what 4K really is. Along with some other titles that will get some updates, third-party titles, not first-party, Final Fantasy 15, Resident Evil 7, Ghost Recon Wildlands, Rocket League. Rocket League in 4K sounds incredible. But color me a little bit skeptical to see if they can actually hit this. They said that they were going to try to hit 4K and HDR with the Xbox One S, and they did on some titles, but like Forza Horizon 3 at launch did not hit correctly. They eventually did patch to make that game run well, and that game looks incredible whether you're playing that on Xbox One or PC. And that's another aspect of this that I should bring up. A lot of Microsoft's first-party efforts, a lot of the Crackdown 3, a lot of the games that they announced at this show are coming both to the Xbox One X and all Xbox One consoles, the original, the Xbox One S, and the X, are also coming to the PC. So if you have a 4K ready PC, you're going to get all of this stuff also. So really the only incentive to get this console is if you want a console-like solution or your PC can't run these games, or you already are in Microsoft's ecosystem and you like what they're selling, you like Xbox Live, your friends are there. So it's a little bit of an open question about whether people will really flock to this thing.
Yeah, and we keep going back to exclusives. It's just right now at this point, it's Gears of War, it's Forza, these Halo games, which they've actually Microsoft has confirmed that Halo 6, they are not anywhere close to announcing that at all. So, it's a big old question mark. That's a big asking price, despite $500 being a lot less than what you would pay with a really powerful graphics card and a powerful gaming PC. It's still a lot of money for not a lot of exclusive games. You can get these games elsewhere. I don't know. It's a really hard case, but I think that they're really trying to attract a lot of people because Sony has taken the stance on lackluster backwards compatibility support, but Xbox is totally embracing it. In fact, they did also announce at the press conference that they're expanding their backwards compatibility program to include original Xbox games, as if this weren't confusing enough. So get this, original Xbox games, 360 games, and Xbox One games will all be playable. Let me back up for a second. The original Xbox games and 360 games, including Live Arcade, there's a fraction of the library that they're still working on patching in that you'll be able to pop in those discs and be able to download those games and be able to play them. But it seems like they're constantly expanding that, which is really, really great news for people who want to go and play and have this be the one console under their TV and access their backlog from. I still don't think that's enough. I still think with new games, they have a lot of ground to catch up on, and pricing this thing at $100 more than the PS4 Pro, which in fact, just if you want to get a base model PS4, it's even less than that. It's a hard thing to sell. And let's just wrap this up by saying the Xbox One X sounds way too much like Xbox One S. Let's just go with that. They're pulling a Nintendo Wii and Wii U move, aren't they?
A little bit. I will say, just on a final thought, I don't know if you watched the Phil Spencer Giant Bomb interview that he did with Jeff Gerstmann, but Phil Spencer really came off as very genuine. He was very honest in this interview, and it was kind of a refreshing take coming from Microsoft, who came into this console generation very cocky, thinking that they were going to be this all-in-one media box, and that just was not the right approach. That's really, I think, why they're kind of lagging behind the PS4. And I think Sony right now is in a position to be very cocky about where they are, and Microsoft is, trying to play catch up a little bit. But I think Phil Spencer is doing the best that he can. He was very honest. He was saying of his competitors that he really wants everybody to succeed. He wants the Xbox One to be a platform for developers. And he seems more willing than he was last year or even 2 years ago to put more of these Microsoft exclusive titles on the PC so that you don't necessarily have to, get into their console to get into their software, because that's honestly where Microsoft is making the money. When you buy a game, whether it's on their Windows Store or, on the Xbox Live Store, they're not making that much money on the console hardware itself. So, hopefully this is a successful strategy for them. I think a healthy Microsoft is healthy for the games industry. Despite me selling my original Xbox One, I'm kind of curious for an Xbox One X, because right now my PC can barely handle the games that they're putting out. It runs Forza Horizon 3 great, but will it handle Crackdown 3 as well, or Forza 7? I don't know.
Well, that's what you get for buying one of those Steam boxes, those underpowered things. That's what you get. All right. Anything else you want to add from E3 this year?
Yeah, this is, I would say that this was kind of a weird E3 year. There were some surprise announcements. I think there are some games that we're definitely looking forward to, but I think overall this was kind of like a flash in the pan year as far as big game announcements. There are a lot of like pirate themed games.
What's up with that? A lot.
Yeah, pirates seem to be the new space this year. So I don't know about that, but definitely some games I'm looking forward to checking out this year and next. And some games we definitely talk about. Games that we'll definitely talk about on the show in the future.
Yeah, and as a reminder, all the games that were announced at E3, links to everything will be posted at the link in the show notes if you're curious, if you missed out on those. And a great place to rewatch all these major press conferences and interviews. These are all available on YouTube Gaming. They have a great repository of just E3 coverage, so I highly recommend that. It was great to watch that stuff live on that platform, but they have that all archived, those videos you can go back and watch. Highly recommend that you do. All right, let's wrap it up. If you liked our show, please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. We would greatly appreciate the reviews. They're honestly a huge help. Please do it.
You can also listen to us on YouTube, Google Play Music, TuneIn, Clamor, or our website, which is 1pvs2p.com, or search for us using your favorite podcast app.
Like us on Facebook, find us on Twitch, and follow us on Twitter at 1pvs2p_podcast. As always, we want to thank Phonetic Hero for the use of his songs for our show, Coffee Stomp, and Super Manly Brothers X. Both songs are part of the compilation project Chiptunes = Win. Thanks for listening. See you next time. Merry Video Game Christmas!
My body is ready.